Sister Queens, I'm Angela Bond, aka Mrs. Curly 007, and this is your Crowns and Curls space where Sister Queens meets Curls. Welcome to those of you who are new to the channel. Do me a favor real quick and please subscribe to our channel so that you can keep up with updated videos, and also so you're able to continue to follow this series. Excuse me. For those of you who have returned and have not yet hit that subscribe button, what's going on, sis? You've come back. We want you to be a part of our community. In order to do that, to make that official, we need you to hit that subscribe button. Last but certainly not least, I want to thank all of my true sisters who have, in fact, subscribed to the channel, and you're helping to grow this community. I thank you guys so much, and I love you guys so very much. So, on today's episode, we are in part 1 of the Fibroids series, and we're going to be talking about what are fibroids and looking at possible signs and symptoms of fibroids. So real quick, just a quick disclaimer. I want to let you guys know that this content is solely based on my personal research and experience. I always encourage you guys to do your own research and make informed decisions when considering anything discussed here. I am not a licensed physician, nutritionalist, or a dietitian, and I am not giving you any medical advice. That is for you to determine for yourself, as we're all different and at various stages of our health. So, Matthews 9:20 through 21, behold, a woman which was diseased with an issue of blood for 12 years came behind Jesus and touched the hem of his garment. For she said within herself, if I may but touch his garment, I shall be healed. So, what are fibroids? According to reproductivefacts.org, uterine fibroids, also known as myomas, are benign, non-cancerous tumors in the muscle tissue found in the uterus. They can enlarge or distort the uterus, change the shape of the uterus. It's also known as the womb, and sometimes it can even affect the cervix, which is the lower part of the uterus. They grow from smooth muscle cells in the wall of the uterus, and they can be singular or multiple, and they're actually quite common. So if you're like me, the first question that I had was, what causes fibroids? There have been a number of research done in order to figure out what causes fibroids, and unfortunately there haven't been any clear findings as to what exactly causes fibroids. Now, according to some doctors at the Mayo Clinic, they have conducted some research, and they have found these particular contributing factors of which causes fibroids. So one of those factors are genetic change. So many fibroids contain changes in the gene that are different from those in normal uterine muscle cells. Hormones are another factor. Estrogen and progesterone, two hormones that stimulate development in the uterine lining during every menstrual cycle in preparation for pregnancy, appears to promote the growth of fibroids. Fibroids contain more estrogen and progesterone receptors than normal uterine muscle cells do, and fibroids tend to shrink after menopause due to decrease in hormone production. One other factor are growth factors, substances that help make the body maintain tissue, such as insulin-like growth factors, may also affect the growth of fibroids. Extracellular matrix, also known as ECE or ECM, are materials that make cells stick together, kind of like mortar between bricks. ECM increases in fibroids and makes them fibrous. ECM is also stores growth factors and causes biologic changes in the cells themselves. So did you know that there's actually 4 types of fibroids? The 4 main types of fibroids are classified by the location of which they develop in the uterus and the uterine lining. So one of those particular fibroids or types of fibroids is known as submucosal fibroids. They grow in the submucosal, which is just below the thin layer of the tissue found in the uterus. These fibroids can protrude into the uterine cavity, and they're actually the rarest types of fibroids. Up next is the intramural fibroids, which grows and are contained within the uterine wall. These are the most common types of fibroids. So serosal fibroids grow on the outside of the uterine wall. And fourth is the pedunculary fibroids. Now, these fibroids grow on stalks or stems. These stems are attached to the uterine wall, and they grow either in the inside of the uterine cavity or on the outside. So, did you know that it's estimated that 8 out of 10 African American women will be affected by fibroids? Now, did you also know that 7 out of 10 Caucasian women will also be affected by fibroids when they reach the menopause, by the time they reach menopause? So, uterine fibroids usually become noticeable during childbearing years, and they become smaller after menopause. Uterine fibroids are not life-threatening, but they can cause painful symptoms and other serious complications if left untreated. So, speaking of symptoms, it's actually not at all rare for uterine fibroids to not cause any symptoms. Now, this means that you may not even know you have them. If you are diagnosed with uterine fibroids, there's a chance that the doctor may have discovered it during your usual annual pelvic exam, our annuals, or you may have had them discovered through a prenatal ultrasound. However, some women with uterine fibroids do suffer from symptoms, and some of those symptoms include unusual heavy bleeding. So excessively heavy or prolonged menstrual bleeding is a common sign. Women have described soaking through their sanitary protection in less than an hour, passing blood clots, and some have even been unable to leave the house during their heaviest day of flow. Now, as a result of this, some women have developed anemia, which is a low blood count. Anemia causes fatigue, headaches, lightheadedness. If heavy bleeding is something that affects your everyday routine, you may want to consider seeking help from an OBGYN in order to look at some possible treatments for fibroids. So one other symptom, one other symptom is painful periods. So feeling bloated or feeling full around your pelvic area, bladder problem. The most common bladder symptom is having the urge to urinate frequently. So some women may wake up several times throughout the night in order to empty their bladder. And in some cases, women may not even be able to urinate even if they feel their bladder is full. So speaking of pelvic discomfort, women with larger fibroids may feel like a heaviness or pressure in their lower abdomen or pelvic area. Often this is described as a more vague discomfort rather than a sharp pain. And sometimes these enlarged uterus, the enlarged uterus makes it difficult to lie down, face down, bend over, or even do exercise without having, discomfort. Other symptoms include pain in your back, pressure or pain during intercourse, and reproductive problems or complications during pregnancy or labor. So, how did I end up here? So, for me, I would say it was probably around the age 28 to 29. Around that time, I was actually proposed to. So that was very exciting and all that good stuff. But I noticed around this time when my cycle started to do some weird things. So the very first thing that I did notice was that my days of flow started to jump around. Now, usually I have a very predictable, normal cycle, 28 days, 5 days of flow, the norm. But around this time, I noticed that it will start, usually it'll come on 25th. All right, so the 25th jumped to the 20th. Next month, it jumped to the 19th. Then the next month, it jumped to the 14th. It was like, what? I didn't understand why that was happening, but it was hard for me to really put my finger on it because, like I said, I was just proposed to, wedding plans were happening, and I thought that it was probably contribute to some stress. Stress do tend to fluctuate your cycle, and it can fluctuate your blood pressure. So I thought that, maybe that's what that was. So fast forward, within a year of the marriage, we started talking about we want to start trying for a baby. And so I still had my IUD in at that time. And for those of you who don't know what a IUD is, it's just an intrauterine device. It's just the short way of saying a form of birth control. This particular one had no hormones. I had the Paragard. I hadn't had any issues with the Paragard. So yeah, we were discussing wanting to, get pregnant. So I had to go into my OBGYN. It was getting close time for my annual exam. So I had my, regular annual exam. And then I started discussing, hey, me and my husband, we're thinking about, starting to, start a family, and I want to have my IUD taken out. So we scheduled a time to have it taken out. I got it taken out. And, you're given this, chat about, well, you should start to, conceive. You should conceive probably within 6 months. If you haven't conceived within 6 months, or a year, actually, she said a year, then come back and, So she sent me on my way, and we, we started to baby dance. So when all of that was going on, I still started to see other signs and symptoms of what I didn't know to be fibroids. Now, I remember when I went in for my annual, they said that, well, your uterus is a little enlarged, but nobody said anything about, like, what does that mean? They just said it's enlarged. We're going to have to do an ultrasound to just make sure everything's okay. Did an ultrasound, everything came back fine. And so while we were trying to conceive, we were out traveling. We were always doing something. And I just noticed that I was heavier. It was really weird. And then one thing that really got me was that at one point, it was probably with 2 months, it came on like twice in the same month. And I know my husband was like, what? Didn't it just come on? And I was tracking everything because I had the little app. Those of us who are trying to conceive, my TTC sisters, trying to conceive sisters, I was tracking everything. You track your flow, you track your ovulation, all of these things. And so when I look back, I was like, yeah, it just came on the beginning of the month because it was so weird, y'all. If I can go back real quick, my husband wanted us to get married on the 11th of August. No, I'm sorry, not 11th, the 25th of August. And like I said, my cycle was very predictable. And I was like, babe, that date is not going to work because, Auntie Flo pays a visit. And we didn't want to be dealing with that because right after the wedding, we jumped on a plane to Jamaica, or we were planning to jump on a plane to Jamaica during that time. And so we switched the dates, and I ended up coming up with August 11th. So y'all, I'm not lying. Like I said, all these changes kept happening. My days kept jumping all over the place. And when I say that it jumped from the 25th to the 19th it ended up on the darn day of my wedding. So that was really crazy. So we dealt with that at, during our honeymoon. And like I said before, we were traveling everywhere. So it's just like I found myself having to pack more, just in case. I didn't know when it was coming on anymore. And one thing that really scared me was that it lasted for 8 days. And that has never happened ever before. As long as I've had a cycle, that has never happened. Not only that, but it was very heavy. I'm trying to keep this, clean, y'all, but y'all know we keep it all the way real, for real here. And the color was very dark. Like, if you know what oxygenated blood looks like, or flow, looks like, it's bright. It's oxygenated. There's oxygen flowing. And so the coloration was very dark. It didn't look normal. Not only that, but I saw clots. So I saw more clots. And one thing that really trips me out about these commercials that glorifies heavy cycles, like, oh yeah, on your heaviest days, it was just crazy for me, that wasn't my norm. 8 days long, clotting, jumping all over the place with the days. And not only that, but one thing that really got me was, I never forget, I was laying on my stomach, in the bed, and I felt like this ball or something, like it was like a knot or something in my pelvic area. That's why I wanted to talk about signs and symptoms, because I wanted to wait and share my experience, because when I was doing my research, it was like, man, all these things were happening and I didn't even know that this was a sign. So after feeling that in my pelvic area, you got us trying to conceive. You got my flow all over the place, with the dates and the prolong, the heaviness. So that morning I was like, I need to call my OBGYN. I told my husband I'm going to call, and I told him everything that I felt, which brings me to, like, if y'all are noticing something out of the norm, then you don't wait and say, maybe this is going to stop. No, you need to call your OBGYN. You need to go to the doctor, because a doctor can't tell you what's going on with you. Only you can tell your doctor what's going on with you, because you know your body, and they can't treat anything without knowing a history of a change or something that's happening in your body. So go to the doctor, call the doctor, track, make notes of things that's happening, and go ahead and call someone. Don't wait and say, oh, maybe this is going to, get better. Meanwhile, something's going on and you don't know, and it's getting worse. So I explained to them everything that was going on, and they actually told me to come in that afternoon. So I went in, and they did like some blood work. They was like, okay, they did a pregnancy test, which I was like, and that's another thing, y'all, like us trying to conceive and having felt like these pregnancy signs and symptoms or whatever. Like I felt what I felt to be implantation. And I'm sorry if y'all don't even know what these terms mean, but implantation simply means when the egg has been fertilized by the swimmers. The next step is to get to the uterus and implant itself, into the lining of the uterus. This is why talking about fibroids it's just really important. But we're going to get more into effects of fibroids on the next video. But anyway, so I felt all of these signs and symptoms, and then I would take a pregnancy test, and it was negative. It was very emotional. It was very emotional for us. And I got to the point I was like, I'm not even going to try anymore. Like, it was just weird. And so thankfully when I went in, that I decided to go in, because I noticed all these different changes. It gave me clarity as to what was going on with my body. And so they did blood work. They did a pregnancy test. Pregnancy test came back negative, obviously. And actually she did a pelvic exam. And what happens is they check your ovaries, they check your uterus, and of course she checked my uterus, and she was like, again with the it's enlarged or something. And she was like, so she ordered an ultrasound to see what was going on, and she also did what's known as a endometrium biopsy. And I was like, yeah, go ahead. She was like, would you like for me to do that? And I didn't know what it was, but I was like, I don't know what's going on with my body, but do it. So what happened is just, if you think about getting the pap smear, she went in and she cut a portion of the lining of my uterus. That's what a biopsy is you're removing a part of the uterus. Well, that particular procedure. It was not fun. But anyway, I had to come back, I think within the next couple of days to get the results. So I did ultrasound, did blood work, did a pregnancy test, and did the endometrium biopsy. Everything came back fine except for the ultrasound. So the ultrasound showed that I had a couple of fibroids. And, of course, I've heard of it before, but I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what it meant. I heard women going through it, but I didn't know. So she was like, so what we're going to do, we're going to either have to remove them or we're going to, or put you on artificial hormones. First of all, we won't doing that one. We won't doing the hormones. I went through a lot of stuff with birth control in my earlier years, like before, my very, very early 20s. I won't hear in that. So I asked, well, what is the procedure? How does that work? What happens when you get it removed? And she said it so like nonchalant, and I guess it's because she does it all the time. She was like, oh, we're just going to do incision, and take your uterus out. Wait a minute. Take my uterus out. She said it. She's like, it's kind of like a cesarean section, like having a C-section. But for me, I was like, I'm not even a mom. Like, I haven't even given birth before ever in life. So I don't know what that entails. But when I heard, take your uterus out, I ain't hear nothing else. I'm going to tell you, all I heard was womp, 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 womp. Like, I didn't hear anything. All I know is I was not going to do that. Not only did she say that, but she said, oh, and by the way, if we go through the procedure of taking the fibroids out, there's a chance that you may have a hysterectomy. Okay, I'm like, so you're saying you're going to take my uterus out, and also you're going to also maybe possibly give me a hysterectomy and take my chances of ever being a mom? Like, are you kidding me? So I let her say whatever she was going to say, but like I said, I didn't hear anything else. I'm a Christian. I'm a follower of Christ. And so I did what Christians do. I prayed. And I asked God to show me a natural way. Show me a natural way to combat this issue. Because I've never even had my tonsils. I haven't even had my tonsils taken out. So I've never been under the knife. I've never been under any form of anesthesia. And I just was not receiving that. And that's just personally my belief. That's me. I won't go and do it. And so I asked God to show me a natural way to, deal with this. And he did. And that is what this series is all about. It's bringing awareness to fibroids. It's talking about options. I'm not a doctor, like I said before. I can't tell you guys what to do, but I can at least shed some light on some other options. I can at least share my personal experience. This is me walking this thing out right now. So you're with me right now, walking this whole thing out. And I can't wait to share everything that I've learned. I can't wait to share some results of applying some of the things that I've learned. So that's what this journey is all about. And there's so much more to come. So like you guys know, the series is just getting started. We're going to be talking about the effects of fibroids. We're going to be looking at the dangers of consuming soybean. We're going to be looking at diet changes and foods to avoid. Going to be looking at some foods to incorporate in your diet. And I'm going to give you some tips on when you're dining out, when you're having girls' night, and, they want to go to a restaurant. What can I do? How can I prepare myself? And also one of my favorite topics is talking about natural herbs and supplements and vitamins to incorporate into your daily regimen. So guys, I'm excited about the series. Thank you so much for coming back. As always, I want you to like, if you feel like this video gave you some form of value, if you feel like you can share this video with a woman in your life, please like this video, guys, and also subscribe so you can keep up with all the updated videos and continue to follow this series. As always, like I always say, you guys, remember you are a queen. Remember your crown was custom made, custom fitted for you. So wear it. Until the next video, I'll see you on the next one, guys. I love you. Bye.